this is the Gitmo 2. The Gitmo 2 are back in the news. The Supreme Court earlier on in the week ordered the Attorney General to release the agreement that under which the two Gitmo former detainees were transferred to Ghana for resettlement. The Supreme Court ruled that there was nothing confidential about that agreement which would compromise the state's security if it were made public. And so the AG is to forthwith make such agreements available to the lawyers of the plaintiffs. And also it was to be taken into evidence of the court. We'll be taking a look at the significance of this ruling and moving forward and how this Gitmo 2 situation is being dealt with. But before we begin discussing that, I'll take some more comments from the viewers and listeners. This one says, this is set in Hawaii. It says, the calls emanating from NDC pressuring President John Mahama to pardon the incarcerated Muntie FM contemnors with his executive power enshrined in the Constitution will be an attack on the independence of the Supreme Court and also open the floodgates for recalcitrant persons to render independent institutions with vulgar threats. Good morning, Abna. Sometimes I'm a bit surprised at our politicians. As much as we condemn the things said by the Muntie FM3, look at how our airwaves are flooded with unspeakable things. Politicians are saying things on air, and that is okay. God is watching us all. This is Aram in a Denta news site. And another one says, Madam, I hope Kennedy, Japan, and Oman FM are listening and following what's going on. I'm not a prophet, but I'm very sure Oman FM and Kennedy will be the next, and I hope Nana Komia will speak the same when it happens. This is Prosper from Latabia Okoshi. Lastly, it says, Abna, good morning to you and your panelists. We have a duty to promote responsible speech whilst upholding freedom of expression. Both are very necessary, but I wish a non-custodial sentence had been preferred on the guys, given the political undertones this case has to its merit, and also not making unnecessary heroes of these guys, as it's currently portrayed with the candlelight vigils and protests held in their honor. This is Mensa Thompson. Okay.
We didn't talk about the value system. We didn't talk about the advertising.
We couldn't.
You know.
But yes, perhaps we'll have another opportunity some other time.
Very necessary.
It's very, very necessary. I do agree. So we're moving on to the Gitmo 2 situation. Now, you do recall that back in February this year, there was a suit filed in the Supreme Court, and the plaintiffs in there were seeking, among other reliefs, a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 75 of the 1992 Constitution, the President, when he agreed to the transfer of the two former Gitmo detainees without the requisite approval of Parliament, either by an Act of Parliament or a resolution of Parliament of more than half of the members of Parliament, acted unconstitutionally. Now, the suit has traveled to this point, and we have the Supreme Court ordering that the AG should make available that agreement to the lawyers of the plaintiffs, and also, of course, to have attended in evidence of the court. The whole argument was that that agreement was confidential, and if it's put out there, it could compromise the security of the state. That was the argument of the AGs. And then, to counter that, the plaintiffs were of the opinion that there was nothing confidential about it, and so it should be disclosed. So this is where we are on that matter. Dr. Apak, I'll start with you here. What is the significance of this ruling for the production of the agreement to the...
Very well. I think that this is yet another example of the fact that we have a functioning democratic system of governance. Quite clearly, we all understood the context and the conditions from where I sit, on which those two asylum seekers were received, with the hope that, you know, they will be able to...
Were they asylum seekers?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the narrative, where they came from, the context within which they came, the fact that that was being granted them by our country was something that was being granted to others from the same background to different parts of the world. So it wasn't as though it was only Ghana who chose to receive ex-Guantanamo Bay detainees.
And you class them as asylum seekers? Did you
what are they here for?
Clearly, well,
from what,
I mean, if
from
we
what,
have
from
received
what,
them,
from what I
they're not
understand,
asylum seekers. They are, yes.
From what I understand an asylum seeker to be, is somebody who is probably tortured or going through some
and
challenge.
we know that is
Hang
exactly
on,
what happened
hang
at
on.
Guantanamo Bay.
Wait,
Just a
some
minute.
challenge in their country, and they have decided to come out of that country to get in another country.
Mr. Jantua.
This
So
one
wait,
was
yes.
an agreement
Mr. Jantua.
between the president of America and the president of Ghana.
Jantua.
So where's the asylum seeker
Mr.
bit you're
Jantua,
talking about?
You understand fully well the conditions under which some citizens were detained in Guantanamo Bay. It is very clear that not every single person who was taken there was proven guilty of the allegations or suspicions based on which that person was
Were they
taken
ever
there.
even tried?
And it is also being very clear that these were people whose rights, by all intents and purposes, were violated.
So take them back to their country.
Mr. Jatra, we'll come to that.
Ghana
Yes,
is
but
a
their
member
country.
of the international
If they
community.
if they had
Yes,
done
you-
nothing
listen.
wrong,
Well, that is
take
a
them
whole
back to
different
their
You
argument.
country.
were
Mr. Jantua.
looking at the
You
significance
may-
of that
you may
ruling.
have your
We'll
disagreement.
get into all of that.
You
but
may have your disagreement.
For now,
But
the significance
what I
of-
wanted to put on the table was the context. You may
Yes.
disagree with me. That
Oh,
is
sure. I
fair.
mean, lots of
that is why we are
disagreements,
here.
yes.
We are not here to agree. We can disagree, and we all share our opinion.
Sure.
But be as it may, you know, the reasons for which the two citizens went to court are well known, and as a government that respects the courts and always seeks to do what is right in as far as the laws of this land are concerned. Once the justices have been able to, from what I know, look at the documentation in camera, so to speak, and the conclusion is that that information should be shared with the legal representatives of the plaintiffs. I believe that is what is going to happen. But I think in the bigger frame of things, this again shows that our institutions do indeed work. And rightly so, we must respect the institutions that we ourselves have put in place to guide us and to interpret what we do within the proper context. So I don't see any other significance other than reasserting the fact that indeed we have institutions that work, and we as a people must always make room to respect the functionality of those institutions.
very well.
How
Mr. Jatra.
about the multi three?
I didn't want to go there. I knew,
we are
yes,
still
I didn't
going
want
back
to
to the
resuscitate
institutions.
that. Yes, again,
And
what
presidency-
Nana Komia is saying
the
is, then
presidency,
respect
and the
that.
president has the prerogative, and that
That's
Article
why I didn't want to
72
bring
is
it
part
in.
of the institution.
Great. So let's not even open that can of worms again. Mr. Jantua, please.
The Attorney General has indicated that the revealing of this document in being ordered by the Supreme Court flies in the face of Article 135 of the Constitution. Now my question is, how does a note verbal, which is meant to use as only evidence and not to be printed to the general public, fly in the face of Article 135 of the Constitution? Now, what does Article 135 say? It says production of official documents in court. 135(1). The Supreme Court shall have exclusive jurisdiction to determine whether an official document shall not be produced in court because its production or the disclosure of its contents will be prejudicial to the security of the state or will be injurious to the public interest. How does it do that? It's note verbal. Now, what I will expect the Supreme Court to do now, in order to make sure that
Let's not go into any sub judice.
I'm not going to sub judice
Just
at all.
sounding a caution
yes,
there.
I'm just saying what I'll expect is that they should bring a proviso out that any of the members in this case, when this document is exposed to them, if by any chance it's leaked into the media,
domain,
the
yeah.
public domain, they would be held responsible.
I think that, yes, that is
I
pretty
think
much
I-
right.
I expect them to do that and to say that, so that it curtails, because knowing our journalists, they will try as much as possible to fish. And knowing, inverted commas begin and close, some of the people who represent people in these cases, some of this information can be leaked. And so I feel the Supreme Court has the right, in order to make sure that the verdict they come out with has the right evidence that supports that verdict, they have the right to ask for that document. Now, the other question is that the president, according to, is it Article 75?
Yeah.
Article 75, execution of treaties. The president may execute, 75(1), the president may execute or cause to be executed treaties, agreements, or conventions in the name of Ghana. 2, a treaty, agreement, or convention executed by or under the authority of the president shall be subject to ratification by Act of Parliament or a resolution of Parliament supported by the votes of more than 1/2 of all the members of Parliament. Can this be classed as an execution of a treaty?
I think that's the crux of the
Yes,
matter.
and if it can be charged as execution of a treaty, then the president has gone against the Constitution. Because according to the Constitution, before he took over this particular detainees, he should have gone to Parliament for it. But some would argue that he has the right. But this right covers everybody if it so happens, and if it so happened that mayhem had befallen this country from terrorists. Well, let's give it to the president. In terms of that, he came and he said to us that he doesn't think bringing the Gitmo 2 into Ghana would cause any terrorist threat. However, it did cause panic. It did cause panic. And was that deserving of Ghanaians? Was it right for Ghanaians to panic on the 2 coming into this country? I think that for such things in future, there should be an open discussion. Because really and truly, and I keep saying this, the president does not go into the Flagstaff House on his own. It's the people who vote the president in there to serve. And yes, there are certain issues that can cause constitutional challenges or national security challenges. But there's ways and means of discussing issues that, can cause national security challenges. And I think the people have the right to know, especially with this kind of Gitmo 2 thing, and especially with the way terrorism is spreading throughout the world. At the present moment, nowhere is safe in the world. Nowhere is safe. If you realize and if you hear what is going on in Europe today, nowhere is safe. France, at any given time, there's a bomb here, a bomb there. Belgium, Germany, maybe the only place they haven't been able to go is the UK because of the channel.
Yeah, well.
But they would go there. And if they feel, and look at what Boko Haram, I was reading yesterday, some of the violence that Boko Haram is perpetrating in Nigeria. And if they are allowed to spread their wings and they link up with all these other terrorist groups, the world is not a safe place. And so with such decisions, I believe going forward, we should try as much as possible to have an open discussion. Ghana, we are lucky, we have an open media. We have a media where people can express their views, not like the Munti 2 or the Munti 3, but they can express their views as to how they feel certain things going on in the country. So
right.
I would suggest that in such situations, we should try as much as possible to make sure that the president does or takes decisions that also would help the people to feel safe.
Very well. I mean, the reference of the AG to Article 135 and the fact that the order flies in the face of that, it's quite interesting because how else was the Supreme Court to make a determination of the nature of the agreement if it didn't have the benefit of an in-camera examination, because that is essentially what the plaintiffs are looking at. They are challenging the president's action based on Article 75, which required, if indeed that agreement is in the nature of that contemplated under Article 75, then it should have been subjected to parliamentary approval, either by way of an enactment or a resolution. So clearly, well, those issues are there. But we have the courts ordering that the AG should make this disclosure. Nina, your take on this?
Thank you, Nana. It's a very simple matter. I mean, this matter goes to show the record of the NDC, President Mahama's government, that they don't believe in accountability, they don't believe in transparency. And it's more shocking if you realize that these NDC people, they have actually written into their constitution probity, accountability, blah, 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 blah. And yet, they don't know what probity is. They don't know what is accountability. They don't know what is transparency. And I'll give you several examples of their behavior that shows that these people do not understand what is transparency and accountability. Let me start with this Gitmo matter. Look, when this matter came, it was done on the blind side of everybody. Only President Mahama took the decision. Indeed, his own cabinet were not aware of the full details. The National Security Council, which advises the president on security matters, was not fully aware of the details. The Parliament of Ghana, which is supposed to ratify intergovernment treaties, was not aware of the details. Even Obama in America, where the Gitmo people were, Obama took the matter to his parliament. President Mahama did not take the matter to his parliament. He did not take the matter to the cabinet. He did not take the matter to the National Security Council.
Not to the people.
You see? You see? Beyond the Gitmo, this government, look, GNPC is going to take a loan that will be guaranteed by the people of Ghana. Bring it to Parliament so the people of Ghana know the terms of the loan. They won't do it. And President Mahama and his government look on. A Great Development Bank, another public bank, they want to float shares. Bring it to Parliament so the people of Ghana know what their bank is getting into. They won't bring it to Parliament. And President Mahama is looking. Bars branding. Publish the report so the people of Ghana will know who and who are doing what with the people's money. They won't bring it. They won't publish it. He had to take the court action. Car power, the energy, electricity generator. They won't bring it to Parliament. If you bring it to Parliament, what do you lose? What are you hiding? Are you hiding something? So you won't bring Gitmo to Parliament. You won't bring GNPC loans to Parliament. You won't bring ADBC. He had to take the courts to be ordering you to do what is proper. Why? Dr. Park, why does your government behave in this manner? Why can't you be transparent over matters that the public has an interest in? What do you lose? What would you have lost if you had allowed GNPC to bring their loan agreements to Parliament? Because those loans are guaranteed by the people of Ghana. So why shouldn't the people know the terms and conditions? What do you lose? In fact, you look better in terms of your governance.
But speaking on the Gitmo issue specifically, I think that the argument on the other side has been that the president was exercising his executive powers. And within that remit, he could have gone into that kind of arrangement.
But the courts of Ghana who interpret those executive powers. They've asked you to publish it, to
yes,
bring it.
Yes, to be not for them to examine it and then use it to determine the matter pending before them, which is so we are yet to find out whether or not it required that parliamentary.
I'm saying that. Why do you need the courts to order you, to be giving you orders? Why?
But perhaps their position is that it didn't require that parliamentary
rightly so
examination, either by way of a ratification by an act of parliament or a resolution of more than one half of.
Their position is that it doesn't require. Their position. Okay, that's the way they see it. So if you took it to parliament, just to be doubly sure. Look, there have been incidents in this
But
country.
if they think it doesn't require that, why take it in the first place?
Listen, there have been
Dana is now the chief advisor to the NDC. Very well.
He's a citizen of Ghana.
I'm a citizen of Ghana.
Yes,
okay?
of Ghana.
Dr. Park, I'm a citizen
No, I'm fully aware of
now,
that.
Abina. So you believe you shouldn't take it to parliament. But if you took it to parliament so that there's greater transparency, there's greater buy-in, what do you lose? Especially when there's agitation that you should take it to parliament. So you go extra, even if you
but
believe
the agitation
so.
came after the fact, and that would have, assuming it went to parliament and parliament said, okay, take it back.
You are taking decision over Gitmo detainees that has national security implications and all of that. You wouldn't take it to the National Security Council to discuss. You wouldn't take it to your own cabinet. Because you have members of cabinet who have come out to say they didn't know the details. You have members of the National Security Council who have come out to say they didn't know the details. So obviously, the cabinet itself was kept in the dark. The National Security Council was kept in the dark. The parliament was kept in the dark. What do you lose if we know the details? You see, it gives the impression that you have something to hide. That's the problem. And so now it's taking the courts to be giving you orders. You see, the court gave you an order on the bus branding. Why? Why? Why did he have to take the courts to order you to release the report of the Attorney General on the bus brand? Why? Is there some overriding national security implications in the report of the Attorney General? Abena, have you asked yourself that question? The bus branding, 3.5 million Ghana cedis matter. Publish it. So everybody will know that the government is taking the correct steps. You won't publish it. It took the courts. So I remember President Kufuor. You know this, the hotel.
Wow.
No, the other one. Mervyn Pick.
Mervyn Pick.
Yeah. The Mervyn Pick agreement. It was a business agreement. But President Kufuor brought it to Parliament. There was talk. In fact, even the NDC at that time thought that it shouldn't come to Parliament. President Kufuor said, look, we want to give the people double assurance. That all the people who should know about this deal know about it. So he brought the Mervyn Pick agreement to Parliament. You see, you're talking about transparency. You're talking about probity. You're talking about opening up to the people. When the people give you the mandate, you're supposed to exercise the mandate with them, not against them, not over them, but with them. And the only way you can do that is by being transparent over public matters. So there's a talk about public monies being used wrongly in bus branding. You appoint the Attorney General to go into the matter. The Attorney General goes into the matter. It's a matter of public interest. The government publishes on small paper, and then you take subsequent actions. The people don't know if you are taking the right actions, if you're acting in the public interest. So you publish the report so they know.
So it's published.
Please be wrapping up and then
point is that it has been published.
After the court.
Same as published.
Same as Gitmo. The court is ordering. Why?
Dr. Park.
Well, I mean, it's quite obvious that Nana Komia was going to try and take advantage of this to, recount what has become the mantra of the MPP. the fact remains that...
I object. Please.
Well,
what have I said?
I'm not taking advantage. Please.
You were speaking about Gitmo.
Okay.
You've gone all the way to Bas Brandon, to...
Yeah, because I'm making the point.
I think he was talking about transparency and all. He took, yes.
If we have to speak about transparency and accountability,
you have a litany of examples.
We have so many examples.
But if you disagree, if you disagree,
I disagree with you.
Yes, but don't say that. Don't ascribe motives to me.
Oh, but of course, your motive is very clear.
Very well.
And are you allowing him to ascribe motives? Should I also ascribe motives to him?
We don't want to do that here. We don't want to do that here. So
please don't do that.
The point I want to make is this. We are running a system. We have a government. Certain actions are taken informed by specific decisions. Now, it is not as though somebody sits there and decides that I want to intentionally do this as a basis of keeping or withholding information from the people. But even when citizens feel that the information provided is not sufficient and they invoke their rights to get more information, I don't see why that should be used as a basis to draw conclusions about our government not being accountable and transparent.
So I think the first thing has to do with the fact that was the government mandated by law, perhaps, to do that?
That's the point.
And did they fail?
And
so
I mean,
why?
We go back to the original issue, which is the Gitmo 2. And you said very clearly that indeed there was reasonable basis for the president to have done this on his own.
Which basis was?
Is it your turn yet?
No, I'm asking. I want to find out.
What I said was that was the argument of the other side. Not necessarily to say that I buy into that.
No.
But yes.
But be as it may, that has been done. And of course, some citizens felt that they had reasonable cause to probe and to seek more information. And they have exercised their right. It's really that simple. I don't think we should beat about the bush and try to build an anthill out of a molehill.
Really? Are we building?
Perhaps it shouldn't have gotten to this point. Because if the president had revealed to us the reasoning behind it, it's not the Supreme Court who are to order you to bring the bill. And even these people who had taken this case to court would not have even gone to court. Now, we're talking about the openness of such issues that can affect everybody in the country. It can affect everybody in the country, because if it so happened that, and I said earlier, the terrorists decided to descend on Ghana, they will descend on Ghana. And it's not the president they will shoot. They will start from somewhere in the north or somewhere you don't even expect. And the next thing you see, there's mayhem in the country. So my point is that with such situations, have a debate. Bring it out. Bring it to Parliament. Tell Parliament, this is what we have received from the United States of America, that they want us to take 2 detainees. The people in Parliament represent Ghanaians in their constituencies. Let parliamentarians go back to their constituencies and say, this is what the executive have brought to us. What is your think on it? What is your take on it? Let them come back to Parliament to report, and let's have a balanced discussion, so that if the people say, well, from the facts that you've given us, from the evidence that you've given us, they don't pose a threat, and because Ghanaians are hospitable and, humanitarian, yes, bring them in, then so be it. But you see, it's making the individual of the president, and when I talk of the president, I'm not talking about the individual John Mahama. I'm talking about the office. Although, yes, you have executive power, there are certain things that you have to be discretionary in using that executive power. And it makes that office look as if, as Nana Komia also said, you're hiding something. Did the American government promise Ghana something for taking the Gitmo 2? And if it so happened that we didn't take them, what would have been the result of America probably aiding Ghana or doing things, for Ghana? So I think that for such situations, we should open up. Government should be more transparent, because if it so happened that any mayhem caused in this country, boy, the president would have all the security supporting him and protecting him. And even they could take the president and go hide him somewhere. What about you and I? What about you and I? When we know the police of today do not have, yes, and they have been giving quite a lot of equipment, but they do not have adequate equipment to protect everybody in Ghana.
Mr. Janto, I was very clear that these two never pose any security risk. That was made very clear.
Yes, that is why I'm saying. That is why I said earlier that the president has been vindicated so far, because nothing untoward has happened. And it looks as if the Gitmo 2 have blended into our society. But I don't know. Are they still in protective custody? Are they still living on the compounds of national security? Where are they today? Nobody seems to be reporting about what is happening to the Gitmo 2. Are we still financing them? How are we looking after these two? I think there should, at least to Parliament.
So all those information were kept out of the public domain, ostensibly because, according to the AGs, if such information was put out there, it would compromise the security of the state. And now we have this ruling coming out to say that, well, there's nothing in there that compromises the state security if this document is made available to the public or put out there necessarily. So that argument of the AG.
You see, Abna, this is where, the dichotomy is. Once this document is sent to the Supreme Court, and it turns out that what the Attorney General said to us then is not true. What does that make the Attorney General? And it is the office of the Attorney General.
We shouldn't be making assumptions.
It's not assumption.
This is
they made a statement.
A live case.
They made a statement.
It's a live case, yes.
Yes.
But we do know
they made a statement.
You might be cited for contempt.
That's why I earlier said let's be careful about the subjudication issues here.
The Attorney General indicated at the time that if we expose
before the matter went to court.
Yes, before it went to court. If we expose it, it will be there'll be a national security, it's a national security issue. And I'm saying if it turns out that in the exposure, the opening up of this evidence, it is shown that really and truly there's no national security issue in there, what does that make the office of the Attorney General? How do people now see it? How do people build confidence in that office to make sure that whatever they say is sacrosanct and is true?
I get your point, but what I'm saying is that you are making assumptions.
Well, my assumptions can turn out to be true.
Well,
very well. Let me take in some comments from the viewers and listeners. There's a collection of signatures that we can get millions of signatures for Atta Ayi to be released. I think Ghana will be good and our democracy will be good if Mugabe, not the Zimbabwean president, is allowed to serve the 4-month jail term. This is Zion Nwa. Good morning, Abna. I greet your senior man, Nana Komia. Mr. Jantua is a very good person since I started watching this program. Nana Jantua, please come to NPP. This is Aliu Sebele from Bully in the Upper West.
And genetically CPP.
You see, you cannot defend what is undefendable or indefensible. When Ghanaians required to know the details of the coming of the Gitmo 2, these NDC people and government communicators came out and opposed that vehemently. The country has been entrusted in the hands of the presidency, meaning any decision taken on behalf of the country must have the majority consent of the people. If they are not threat to all, why did America, of all the most sophisticated security, with all the most sophisticated security, not take them back to the US? Mm-hmm. And what did the country exchange this big security threat with? Politicians should have in mind it is the citizenry that makes them, and we can unmake them at any point in time. Good morning, Madam. It says, in fact, we are waiting for the president to pardon the Muntie 3 so that it will make our campaign much easier. This is Otabel in Fadama. I think if the courts don't want to, I can't read that, unfortunately. This is Farouk and Tamale. He says, good morning to you, Abna, and your panel members, especially senior comrade Dr. Apak. In fact, it is profoundly troubling when you have Supreme Court justices. I'm sorry, I can't read this. Good morning, Abna. I'm watching from my small corner in Ifekuma, and I will say, wow, it's say that the NDC is shooting itself in the foot and pushing themselves slowly to opposition with this Muntie FM thing in the Article 72 bit. This one says, Nana Komia is being political in all his submissions. He and his NPP are equally guilty of everything that he's saying. Then the NPP thinks they have to do politics with everything in this country. That I think is unfortunate and out of place. This is Alex Dapila in Kumasi. From Mankama in Wa, he says, to the best of my knowledge and my bid to, I'm not getting this, sorry. Good morning, Abna. I'm totally surprised about the NPP and its surrogates. We're all in this country when an MP declared war and called for the elimination of certain tribes. Nana Komia and his people poured out on the streets to demand his immediate release when he was taken to court. And he also did that. Now I would like to ask Mr. Komia, Mr. Jantua, and the Supreme Justices whether they were not in the country when Kennedy Japan called for the elimination of more than half of Ghanaians because they don't believe in the NPP. Well, those are comments coming in from viewers and listeners.
That
we
last
appreciate
point
that
is interesting.
you want to.
It's a very bad, it's all born out of ignorance.
Which one?
This
The bit about the Kennedy.
Listen.
Where's the ignorance? Which side is the ignorance?
2 seconds. You see, Kennedy Japan, when he made comments that were thought to be inciting, was arrested. Nobody stopped the arrest. Nobody. In fact, the government broke the law because the government kept him more than 48 hours without a court order. That is what provoked the reaction of his supporters. That's what provoked the reaction of his supporters. The government itself cannot abide by the simple requirements of the law that you cannot keep a suspect beyond 48 hours. So you go and arrest Kennedy Japan, the comments he made, you said were insightful and all of that.
So you're saying it was, you poured out onto the street because of his overdue stay in that, and not because you were doing that in solidarity with
That's exactly what...
But the police also have the right to keep a person over 48 hours if they find that they need extra time to get more evidence.
No.
But you need to...
Abna is a lawyer.
Yes, but Mr. Jantua is as well.
It's not true.
You need to, that 48-hour rule should be applied, really. You can't
That
go
48
beyond that.
hours should be applied. It's
Before
not
the court
subject
order
to what the
wouldn't come
police
in and all.
want. What are you telling us, Mr. Jantua?
No, but
What are you telling us?
there is that aspect of it, but then you need to comply first with that. Yes.
Absolutely.
No, but it's
Absolutely.
not true that the acts of public distraction occurred after the 48 hours.
What?
It wasn't. It was spontaneous. When the information got into the public domain that he had been arrested, sympathizers and supporters of your party, you are a very smart communicator.
No, go on.
You said he supporters.
Look at it.
They were not he supporters. They were members and sympathizers of the MPP.
Okay, agreed. Go on.
Who invaded and caused a lot of destruction to public property and even manhandled innocent citizens who were going about their normal activities. And you celebrated him and poured powder on him when he was released at your party's headquarters.
Okay, let me give you
so in other words, what you're saying is the NPP has done it and
No,
NDC
I'm not trying.
does it as well,
I'm not equalizing. Nobody should encourage
No, you are not equalizing.
behavior that is distracting.
Let me tell you the facts, because I was there myself. I was at the police station. It is normal. If today Dr. Park is bundled by the police, you would have your supporters, NDC sympathizers, coming to show solidarity. There's no problem with that. And that was what was done in the case of Kennedy Japan. I was there myself, well there. Now, when the police had kept him for hours, they decided they were going to grant him bail, as he was entitled to. All of us went through the bail procedures. You had to secure property. You had to bring property that you had title. All of us went through all that process up to 6:15 p.m. Then the police finally said that, well, we can't grant him bail because of orders from above. But if you speak to the police, the records are there. All the police had said, go and do A, B, C, D, so we can grant him bail. All of that was done. And then, in the evening, the police said, we can't grant him bail again. At that point, people felt there had been political interference, that the law was not taking its course. The second time when he was, after he was freed, was because you kept him beyond 48 hours. If you had taken him through the due process of law, what would have been the matter? There would have been no matter. The president said he was going to.
You said
the president
that was
said
done because
he was going to crush him.
Above, order from above.
Yes, that's what they told him. The
How do
president
you
said
prove that?
he was going
What
to
is your
crush
basis for
him.
that statement?
Listen, please.
President Mahama.
But let's wrap up on this because this came in from the contributor.
President Mahama
We
said
were
he
looking
was
at the
going
Gitmo.
to crush him with a popular maja. Do you know popular maja?
You never said
I
that.
don't know.
The president didn't say so.
He said he was going to.
Just what the president said so.
What's the problem?
The steamroller. Then the president said so. Abna,
I didn't.
you
I
never.
don't
Oh,
know.
because somebody had said that we shouldn't kill an ant with a
Sledgehammer.
sledgehammer. Then the President Mama said, "Oh, you are worried about sledgehammer. We are going to crush him with a."
Well, I didn't hear that. But yes,
I'll bring you the quotation.
back to the issue on the table, which is the Supreme Court ruling on the release of the agreement. You know, it's interesting that the AG was going under the State Security Act and saying that, yes, that would amount to putting the security of the states in jeopardy, if you like. So with this now, clearly then it's the if you like, the safe haven of the State Security Act is not necessarily there. You just cite it, but then you need to show that actually it is not. What you're saying about the compromise of the state security is real and not just something that you're putting up there for the benefit of you not disclosing the relevant information, which is a key development in our jurisprudence.
Well, that is sort of interesting. I didn't avert my mind to that, but of course, you lawyers quite clearly, I mean, it is part of your trade, so you pay attention to all the nuanced components of these types of development. But I believe that, you know, once these issues that have been considered in camera, it would suggest to me that there is a balance somewhere that probably would allow for, you know, content that cannot be injurious to our state security to be kept away from the public domain. But, well, the court has spoken, and we have to deal with the consequences thereof.
Very well.
The court is speaking too many times
Oh,
to get you to be transparent.
So, yes, again, Mr. Nkomia is raising the issue about transparency. Dr. Park.
But of course, he's been saying this all day.
Yeah.
And there's no merit to it.
If we are to speak about transparency,
Yes.
transparency should also include personal responsibility. And this should go beyond just a government or a party in power. Asking how transparent his political party has been.
Show us.
Oh, well, your suspended chairman has accused you of a multitude of...
Anyways, let's not go into the litany
uh,
of issues. We wrapped up on the discussion on the Gitmo 2 agreement and the fact that the Supreme Court had ordered that agreement be released by the AGs. We're moving on now to look at the supplementary budget that was presented in Parliament on Monday by the Finance Minister, Mr. Seth Terkper. We'll be looking at how the supplementary budget, as presented, addresses our current challenges, doomsaw, amongst others. But before then, I'll take a few messages from our viewers and listeners, and then we carry on. This is Silas Owusu in Kumasi. Says they shouldn't release any agreements, but rather they should release the Gitmo 2. As an ordinary man, I'm struggling to pay my tax, and the president is using the tax to cater for them eating food and enjoying.
That's a very interesting
here. And another one says, the fear of contempt is the beginning of wisdom and serenity in our body politic. Kudos to our law lords at the Supreme Court for restoring sanity on our airwaves and bringing back the culture of deterrence. The sentence slapped on the Muntie 3 is highly meritorious and would send the right signals to our maverick politicians who think they are untouchable. It's a victory for democracy. This is Idi Muhayuddin. Good morning. I think the Muntie trio should have been given 12 months jail term, and I'm disappointed in the ministers of state who are calling for a presidential pardon. Doesn't mean they support their actions. This is hypocrisy of the highest degree. This is from George in Ofinso. The last one here says, good morning, I'm Adam from Kumasi. I think the Supreme Court was so on the Muntie their license should have been taken. Okay, I think it's saying the Supreme Court was lenient on the Muntie trio. Their license should have been taken away from them. Thanks for your messages. Keep sending them through and we'll be reading them. So